All right, so get this, and we're diving into Colombian politics today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so specifically, we're going to be looking at Vicky Dávila.
Uh-huh.
You know, the journalist.
Yeah.
Well, she might be running for president.
Interesting.
And the report that we're going through analyzes what that could mean for Colombia.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
It's wild.
Yeah, it really is a fascinating shift.
Right.
I mean, she spent her career holding powerful figures accountable.
Exactly.
And now she might become one herself.
Okay, so for those of you who might not be super familiar with Colombian media,
Right.
Vicky Dávila is kind of a big deal.
Definitely.
She's built a career on uncovering the truth, even when it gets messy.
Yeah.
This report highlights her impressive track record,
Yeah.
years of reporting on corruption, abuse of power,
Wow.
and even human rights violations.
It's true, and it's this dedication to exposing the truth.
Right.
That's given her a unique connection with the Colombian people.
Yeah.
Especially those who are, let's say, less than thrilled with the current political scene.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Take the Comunidad del Anillo scandal, for example.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one.
This involved a massive corruption ring within the Colombian military.
Wow.
Dávila's investigation exposed the whole thing,
She did.
cementing her reputation as someone who isn't afraid to take on the powerful.
See, that's what I find so interesting.
Yeah.
These high-profile investigations, like the Comunidad del Anillo one,
Yeah.
have earned her the trust of everyday Colombians.
Right. They see her as...
They see her as someone who can actually bring about change.
Exactly.
But the question is, can she maintain that trust as she transitions from journalism to politics?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That's what this report really tries to get at.
Yeah, it's a valid question, and the report acknowledges that.
Okay.
It dives into the potential challenges she might face.
Okay, like what?
Like, how can she hold on to her journalistic independence while campaigning?
That's a good question. And can she handle the inevitable attacks from those who she's exposed in the past?
Yeah, those are definitely things to consider.
For sure.
Because, let's face it, the current political climate in Colombia is...
Pretty tense.
Pretty tense.
Yeah.
This report paints a picture of growing dissatisfaction with President Petro's government,
Yeah.
citing issues like economic instability
Right.
and
Yep.
some controversial reforms.
It's true. There's definitely a sense that many Colombians are ready for a change.
I bet.
And this creates an opportunity for figures like Dávila, who are seen as outsiders, to step in.
Yeah.
She's poised to capitalize on this sentiment by positioning herself as the champion for change
Interesting.
that people are looking for.
Okay, so let's get to the heart of it.
Yeah.
What is Dávila actually proposing?
Right. What's she going to do?
What would a Colombia under her leadership look like?
Well, the report outlines a few key areas that she's likely to focus on, first and foremost. Yeah. You can bet she's going to go hard on fighting corruption.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
She's already built a reputation for going after corruption no matter who's involved.
Exactly.
I can see how that would resonate with voters.
Absolutely. And beyond tackling corruption, the report suggests she'd prioritize security as well.
Okay, so security is a big one.
It's a major concern for many Colombians,
right?
Especially with the ongoing violence in certain regions.
So is she proposing a more hardline approach to security then?
It seems so.
Okay.
The report suggests she might try to appeal to voters who are looking for a strong leader who can restore order and safety.
Okay, interesting.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
The report also explores how she might try to unite a divided nation.
Wow, that's ambitious.
It's a tall order, but the idea is that her outsider status could actually work in her favor.
Wait, how so? I think being an outsider would make it harder to unite people.
Well, think of it this way. She's not tied to any particular political party or ideology, which means she could potentially build a broader coalition.
I see.
She's starting with a clean slate, and that could give her the flexibility to reach across the aisle and appeal to voters who are tired of the existing political landscape.
Okay, I see what you mean. It's like she's a blank canvas.
Kinda.
Which could be an advantage in a divided political climate.
Definitely.
But let's move on to something I'm sure you're itching to discuss.
Oh, yeah. Lay it on me.
Her economic policies.
Okay.
The report suggests she might draw inspiration from Donald Trump's economic playbook.
Wow. Okay.
That's a bold move, to say the least.
It's definitely an intriguing aspect of the report.
Yeah.
Now, before you jump to conclusions, Remember, this doesn't mean she's going to build a wall or anything like that.
Okay, okay.
We're talking about economic principles.
Okay, but still, Trump's economic policies.
Yeah.
In Colombia.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to hear how the report breaks that down. Yeah, me too.
What specific policies are we even talking about here?
The report highlights things like tax cuts,
Okay.
deregulation, and potentially even some protectionist measures to boost domestic industries.
Hold on, back up.
Yeah.
Tax cuts, deregulation. Are those really the right moves for Colombia's economy?
Cool.
What about the potential risks?
Right.
Didn't those same policies contribute to widening inequality in the U.S.?
They did.
And could protectionism harm Colombia's relationships with its trading partners?
You're hitting on some crucial points.
Okay.
And the report acknowledges that...
So it's not just a blind copy and paste of Trump's policies then?
Definitely not.
Yeah.
The report emphasizes that any economic policy inspired by the Trump era would need to be adapted to Colombia's specific context.
Makes sense.
The authors argue that the key is to balance stimulating growth with protecting the most vulnerable.
Right, because ultimately it's about making sure the benefits of economic growth
are shared broadly, not just concentrated at the top.
Exactly. And that's going to be one of the big challenges for Dávila.
Yeah.
If she does decide to run.
Right.
Can she find that balance?
That's the question.
Can she adapt those Trumpian ideas to fit Colombia's unique needs?
Well, that's a great point to end part 1 on.
It is.
We've covered a lot of ground already, but there's still much more to explore.
For sure.
When we come back, we'll dive into the report's vision of what a Colombia led by Dávila could look like.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned.
I will.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were getting into some pretty heavy stuff. Dávila's potential economic policies and that whole Trump connection.
Yeah, it was pretty wild.
But now I'm curious, what does the report say about the bigger picture? Like, what could Colombia actually look like under her leadership?
Well, the report actually paints a pretty optimistic vision.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it lays out a potential future where Colombia is experiencing significant economic growth.
Okay.
With tons of new jobs being created, fueled by entrepreneurship, foreign investment, and a real focus on sectors like technology and agriculture.
Okay, so we're talking about a Colombia that's humming with economic activity.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's got to be more than just about money, right? What about other aspects of Colombian society?
You're right. The report goes beyond just the economy.
Okay, good.
It envisions a Colombia where transparency and accountability are the norm.
Okay.
Think about it, a government where corruption has been drastically reduced.
Wow.
Through things like digitalization and increased citizen oversight.
Wow, that would be a huge shift.
It would.
Especially for a country that's been grappling with corruption for so long.
Yeah.
It's ambitious, but I can see how Dávila's background as a journalist would make her uniquely suited to tackle this.
Right.
It's like she's been training for this her whole career.
Exactly. She wouldn't be coming in as a typical politician. She'd be bringing this outsider perspective, this reputation for seeking truth and holding people accountable.
Yeah.
That could be a powerful combination.
We've also talked a bit about the security situation in Colombia.
Right.
And I know this is a big concern for a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely.
Does the report address how a Dávila government might handle that?
It does. The report suggests that she could implement some pretty comprehensive security strategies.
Okay, like what?
Things like targeted social investment and reconciliation efforts.
Okay.
All aimed at creating a more peaceful and united Colombia.
So it's not just about cracking down on crime.
Right.
It's about addressing the root causes of violence and inequality.
Exactly. A much more holistic approach.
So it sounds like a multifaceted approach, tackling the issue from different angles.
Yeah.
And it's not just about restoring order, it's about actually healing the divisions within Colombian society.
Exactly.
That's a pretty powerful idea.
It is. The report emphasizes the need to look at the whole picture, addressing both the symptoms and the deeper underlying causes of conflict and insecurity.
And what about the future generations of Colombians?
Oh, that's a good point.
What does the report say about them?
The report really stresses the importance of investing in young people.
Okay.
It talks about expanding access to education and skills training.
Yeah.
So that future generations are equipped to contribute to a brighter future. You know, give them the tools they need to succeed in a rapidly changing world.
So if we're putting all of this together, we're talking about a potential future where Colombia has a thriving economy, less corruption, improved security, and a younger generation that's empowered and ready to take on the challenges ahead.
That's the goal.
Pretty hopeful picture, isn't it?
It is. But here's the catch. The report attributes a lot of this potential for positive change to Davila's ability to inspire trust in the government.
Right.
It argues that her leadership could usher in an era of greater civic engagement.
Interesting.
Where citizens feel more connected to their government and more optimistic about the future.
It's like she represents a break from the old ways of doing things, a chance for a fresh start.
Yeah, definitely.
But let's be real for a second. Can one person really make that much of a difference? Aren't there all sorts of obstacles that could get in the way?
Of course.
Even with the best intentions.
No leader can single-handedly transform a nation overnight.
Right.
The report acknowledges that there are going to be challenges.
Like what? What are some of the things that could derail this optimistic vision?
Well, for one, there's the issue of political will. Even if Dávila is totally committed to these changes, it takes a lot of effort and determination to implement them.
It does.
She'd need to navigate a complicated political system, build consensus, and overcome resistance from people who benefit from the status quo.
Right. It's a reminder that real change requires more than just one person at the top. It requires a collective effort, a shared commitment from society as a whole.
Absolutely. And we can't forget about external factors.
Oh, right, yeah.
Things like the global economy and regional security challenges. Those are outside of her control.
Right.
But they could still have a major impact.
So even the best laid plans can be disrupted by events that no one can predict.
Unfortunately.
But even with all of that in mind, the report seems cautiously optimistic.
It does.
It argues that Dávila's unique combination of credibility and her proposed policy approach could really be the spark that ignites positive change in Colombia.
And that's the big question, isn't it? Can she bridge the gap between the vision and the reality? Can she inspire people to believe in a better future and then actually deliver on those expectations?
Those are some heavy questions, and I think they lead us perfectly into the final part of our deep dive. When we come back, we'll analyze what a Dávila presidency could mean for Colombia's future, weighing the optimism of this report against the realities of governing a complex and dynamic nation. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Vicky Dávila's potential presidency.
It's been quite the journey.
We've talked about her background, her platform, and even what a Colombia under her leadership could look like.
It's a fascinating scenario.
But now I want to get to the heart of it all. Could she really be the one to bring about the change that so many Colombians seem to be craving?
That's the million-dollar question, right? I mean, the report we've been discussing lays out a pretty compelling case for her.
It does.
But let's not forget that actually governing is a whole different ballgame.
You're right.
It's one thing to have a vision. It's another to make it a reality.
It's easy to talk about things like fighting corruption or boosting the economy, but actually implementing those changes in a way that works. That's the real test.
Absolutely.
So how does the report address that? Does it give us any clues about how Dávila might approach the very real challenges of running a country?
It does, and this is where I think her experience as a journalist becomes really important.
Okay, how so?
Well, the report suggests that her background in holding powerful people accountable, her understanding of the issues facing Colombia, and her willingness to ask tough questions could be huge assets when it comes to navigating the complexities of government.
So it's not just about the policies themselves, it's about her leadership style.
Exactly.
She'd be bringing that same tenacity and commitment to truth that we saw in her journalism to the political arena.
Exactly. And the report argues that her credibility as an outsider, someone who isn't part of the traditional political machine, could actually be a powerful force for change.
Interesting.
They suggest that her ability to connect with everyday Colombians, speak truth to power, and inspire hope could be key to unlocking Colombia's potential.
But let's be realistic here for a second. No leader, no matter how capable or well-intentioned, can solve all of Colombia's problems on their own.
Of course not.
There are some deep-rooted issues, powerful interests, and external factors that could throw a wrench in even the best-laid plans.
Absolutely. The report doesn't sugarcoat things.
Okay.
It acknowledges that Dávila would face some serious challenges.
Like what?
Think about navigating a fragmented political landscape, or addressing the root causes of inequality and violence.
Yeah, those are big ones.
Those are not easy tasks.
And we can't forget the economic challenges either.
Right.
We talked about how she might draw inspiration from some of Trump's economic policies. But we also discussed the potential risks that come with that approach. Finding that sweet spot between stimulating growth and protecting vulnerable populations is going to be a tightrope walk.
You're absolutely right. There are no easy answers, no magic solutions.
Sure.
It's going to take careful consideration and a nuanced approach to strike that balance.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it's clear that a potential Davila presidency presents both exciting possibilities and significant challenges.
Definitely.
This report gives us a glimpse into a potentially brighter future for Colombia,
It does.
but it also reminds us of just how complex governing can be.
Yeah.
It's important to have realistic expectations.
It all comes back to leadership being about more than just having a vision.
Right.
It's about execution, about making those tough choices, building consensus, and navigating the inevitable setbacks that come with trying to create real change.
Ultimately, whether Vicky Dávila can be the catalyst for the change that many Colombians seem to be yearning for is a question that only time will answer.
It's true. We'll have to wait and see.
But one thing is for sure, her potential candidacy has shaken things up in Colombian politics.
Oh, absolutely.
It's forcing everyone to confront the challenges and possibilities that lie ahead.
And that in itself is valuable.
It is.
It's a reminder that change is possible, but it requires active participation, critical thinking, and a willingness to grapple with complex issues.
So to all you deep divers out there, we encourage you to keep exploring this topic. Dig deeper into the potential implications of a Davila presidency, consider the different perspectives and arguments, and form your own conclusions about what the future holds for Colombia. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive on